Hey guys, in today's video, we'll go over the top 6 best Sony cameras in 2022, and what you should look for when buying a new one. We rank these products based on their performance, price, durability, and other factors. If you want to learn more about it, please read the description and check out the latest pricing. Sony A6100. The A6100 will undoubtedly earn some side-eye from photogs, who wouldn't be caught dead using a kit lens, but its plastic exterior isn't flimsy. The body measures 2.6 by 4.7 by 2.3 inches, height, width, depth, and weighs 14 ounces without a lens. It's a rangefinder-style design with the electronic viewfinder positioned at the rear left corner rather than centered behind the lens. Some mirrorless cameras omit a viewfinder, but the A6100 has one built in. It also has a pop-up flash and a hot shoe to mount an accessory flash or external microphone. Bigger lenses can cause the small moment to cast a shadow, but you can tilt it back and up for more diffused, softer illumination. The record button is at an odd place, nestled at the right side of the rear thumb rest, so it's almost on the camera's right side. You can disable one-touch video recording if you want to, as it is possible to press it accidentally. If you do so, you'll need to switch the mode dial to the movie position to roll the video. The FN menu is very useful. It gives quick on-screen access to your choice of a dozen settings, with a pretty good default set that lets you fine-tune the focus settings with ease. Change the metering and switch to black and white or other color profile. While the LCD supports touch, the FN menu is only navigable via buttons. The A6100 is powered by Sony's oft-lamented W battery. It's been in production for an eternity, used in the company's mirrorless cameras even back when they were sold under NEX branding. Wireless connectivity also impacts battery life. The A6100 has the standard cocktail of Bluetooth, NFC, and Wi-Fi to connect to your Android or iOS phone. The camera uses a free app, Sony Imaging Edge Mobile, to transfer images and video from camera to phone. The app also works as a remote control, so you can set up the camera on a tripod and trigger a group shot with your phone. The Sony A600 has been our top recommendation as an affordable mirrorless camera for almost the eternity of its life in the marketplace. It was absolutely unmatched upon its release, which has given it fairly long legs. But time marches on, and the A600, still on sale for around $550 as a body only, is missing some of the features we expect in a camera sold in 2020. Specifically, it doesn't offer 4K video capture or a touch LCD. While it can fire its shutter quickly, its autofocus system isn't nearly as fantastic as newer cameras. There's much more to like than to complain about, and the A6100 is an excellent camera for families, aspiring photographers, and even some enthusiasts. The latter group might be happier with an A6400. Sony ZV-E10. The ZV-E10 is built to the needs of video-first creators, particularly vloggers. As such, it drops the EVF, built-in flash, and mode dial from the stills-first A6100. Instead, it uses a quality three-capsule microphone, a windscreen is included, and adds a swing-out, front-facing LCD. It's a slim, light camera, 2.5 by 4.5 by 1.8 inches, height, width, depth, and 12 ounces. It's built around an APS-C sensor, smaller than the full-frame chips Sony put in its A7 series. You can use full-frame, FE, and made-for APS-E lenses. There's typically some cost and weight penalty by opting for full-frame glass, but it's a plus if you're already in the Sony system. To get a wider view, I use the Sony E10-18mm f4 and Tamron 11-20mm f2.8 and tried it with the Tamron 150-500mm for telephoto shots. The grip connects to the ZV-E10 via Bluetooth and includes controls to record clips, adjust zoom, and toggle background defocus. It's an almost required accessory for handheld use. You'll naturally hold the camera steadier with a pistol-style grip, and it folds out into a convenient tabletop tripod. Tilt and rotation are supported too. If you're buying the camera, you should try and make room in your budget for the grip. The ZV-E10's controls are a departure from a stills-first camera. There's no mode dial on the top. Instead, you'll set the capture mode via the menu. You do get a shutter release at the top of the hand grip. It has a rocker to drive zoom on power zoom lenses, like the E16-50mm kit option. The center of the top plate houses the three-capsule mic. Sony bundles a windscreen with the camera. Just slide it into the hot shoe to shield the built-in mic. The hot shoe also accepts Sony's digital on-camera mics and can mount a standard analog mic. The 3.5mm input is on the left side panel. It does limit your control over the camera when you're both cinematographer and on-screen talent. You can tap the screen to set a focus point, but that's really it. You need to get behind the camera and work with the rear buttons if you're recording a selfie vlog and want to make some settings between clips. The ZV-E10 is powered by Sony's off-lamented NP FW50 battery. It's rated for about 80 minutes of record time, or 440 photos. But your mileage will vary based on how you use the camera. On-the-go charging is available, but it's pretty slow. It took about 3 hours to recharge a nearly depleted battery with an 87-watt Apple charger. Focus is fast, and the camera does as good a job tracking action as others in the Sony series. We consider it among the best you can find in an APS-C camera, and it's backed up by a fast burst rate of 11 frames per second. It manages 111 JPEGs, 48 RAW, or 43 RAW plus JPEGs before the buffer fills. But if you do fill it all the way, you'll need to wait for all the photos to save to memory before you can switch to a video mode. Sony ZV-1. The ZV-1 is a small camera, 2.4 by 4.2 by 1.7 inches, height, width, depth, and 10.4 ounces. Its lens doesn't wholly retract into the body. It juts out a little bit, but it's compact enough for most pockets. Sony has opted for a composite material for the body, a departure from the metal exterior used by the RX100 series. The body feels solid, and the finish will likely hold up better over time. There's still a bit of metal around the lens, giving it extra protection. The ZV-1 also includes a small hand grip, something missing from the RX100 family. Unfortunately, it's not an excellent grip. It makes the camera less comfortable to handhold in most situations. Rear buttons are squeezed into the right side below the thumb rest. There's a flat command dial, a center button, 4 directional press controls, and FN, menu play, and C2-delete buttons. There's also a 3.2mm input for an external microphone, a micro HDMI output port, and a micro USB port for charging. We'd have preferred to see USB-C here. It's the current standard and supports headphone adapters. There's also in-camera Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. The ZV-1 works with a smartphone app, Sony Imaging Edge, for Android and iOS, so you can send footage to your phone or use your handset as a remote control. The ZV-1 is as adept for video as for stills. It offers 4K footage at 24 or 30 frames per second and 1080p at up to 120p, adding some flexibility for slow motion playback when working on HD projects. You also get high frame rate, HFR, capture at 240, 480, or 960 frames per second for extreme slow motion effects. It works well but requires a bit of time for the in-camera processing to render clips. The real drawback is the lens. The 24-70mm zoom is a fine choice for photography and many types of video. Still, it's tight for vlogs where you want to point the camera in your direction and show your surroundings. If I have a wish list for a ZV-2, it starts with an 18 or 20mm wide-angle lens. Sony A7C. The A7C is a confusing addition to the Alpha lineup that started in late 2013 with the release of the A7 and A7R. Since then, we have seen 8 more full-frame cameras launch in the line, all with the same design. The surprisingly compact A7C breaks that mold. It looks much like Sony's lower-tier APS-C line than the other A7 models, primarily due to the viewfinder being moved to the far left. This makes it shorter and therefore easier to jam into a bag to tote around. This camera is not exceptionally small and certainly not pocketable. It is just smaller relative to other full-frame cameras. And once you put a typically large full-frame lens on it, Sony A600 with an APS-C sensor will feel much lighter. Almost all of the buttons on the back are on the right-hand side, which means you can control the camera entirely with one hand. The powerful autofocus and 10 frames per second burst mode makes the A7C fast. The big sensor's ability to shoot at high ISO makes it suitable in low light. But what makes this camera special is that experience in a more petite body. It's being able to whip this out of a small bag. It's being able to carry it for hours without noticing. It's flipping that screen around and taking selfies instantly. It's all that, paired with those specs and capabilities, that make this camera worth talking about. Sony Alpha A1. The Alpha A1 comprises a 50.1 megapixel stacked CMOS sensor and OLED viewfinder capable of 240 frames per second refresh rate, and a mechanical shutter flash sync up to 1/400th of a second. All in a body that doesn't look or feel that much different than any other Sony full-frame mirrorless camera. It can shoot 8K video at up to 30 frames per second, make 120 autofocus calculations every second, and shoot 50 megapixel images up to 30 frames per second, complete with autofocus and auto exposure. The 50.1 megapixel images from the A1 are sharp, full of contrast, and accurate to life. The A1 also uses the same Sony NP-FZ100 batteries as other more recent Alpha cameras. It pulls more power than most other models though. One battery lasts only half a day of heavy photography with the A1. Since this is Sony's top-end model targeted at professionals, many ports are on the camera's left side, including an Ethernet port and full-sized HDMI. All are covered by solid-feeling plastic doors that close with a reassuring click. On the right side are dual SD card slots supporting SD or CF Express Type A cards. Sony seems intent on making CF Express Type AA thing, but using Type B would have given shooters more options in price and brands. Not to mention Type B cards are twice as fast. The A1 earns its price tag with its massive sensor, high-spec video, all of the dials and buttons one could need, an outstanding AF system, and fast burst modes. It can work across many disciplines, from professional video work to studio, strobe work, and even action photography. It's like Sony took all of the best features of the A9 Mark II, the A7S Mark III, the A7R Mark IV, added the ability to shoot 8K video, and then put it into a single camera. Sony A7 III. The Sony A7 III has long been one of our favorites all-around entry-level full-frame mirrorless cameras. Its 24 megapixel resolution is enough for most. Its AF system is fast and powerful. Its 10 frames per second shooting is impressive at this price, and it even shoots 4K video, though there is a small crop if you want to shoot at 30p. Like its predecessors, the A7 II and the A7 III has a 24 megapixel sensor. Resolution is probably the first thing camera buyers look for, and it's perhaps this camera's most unremarkable specification. It's not the same sensor as before, however. This one has a back-illuminated design for improved light gathering and is teamed up with a front-end LSI and Bionz X processor that produces much faster data readout and processing speeds than before. The result is much improved noise, high ISO performance, high-quality 4K video, and impressive 10 frames per second continuous shooting speed, double the speed of the previous A7 II. The A7 III is like the other A7 models, remarkably small for a full-frame camera. This is due in part to its mirrorless construction, but also to the ingenuity of its designers. Unfortunately, Sony's lenses, particularly its finest ones, are not small. As a result, the A7 III does feel front-heavy, distinctly with the kind of lenses you might choose to go with it, such as the FE24-105mm, f/4G OSS, or FE24-70mm f/2.8 GM. With that in mind, the optional VG-C3EM battery grip might be worth considering, especially if you go in for a lot of telephoto-based sports photography. Apart from that, there's really very little to criticize. The electronic viewfinder and LCD display don't have the highest resolutions on mirrorless cameras. Still, they're more than adequate, and the viewfinder's 0.78 times magnification means it's big and clear. The A7 III hardly puts a foot wrong. Its specifications make it a terrific all-arounder, one that's so powerful that its price is a bit of a surprise. Its handling and control layout isn't perfect. Fans might disagree, but that's soon forgotten in the face of its autofocus and continuous shooting performance, not to mention its 4K video capabilities. But pixels aren't everything, and its 24 megapixel is still enough to produce top quality enlargements and meet most regular commercial briefs. And it's what makes the A7 III's fantastic blend of speed, performance, and value for money possible. Other cameras might grab the headlines in one area or another. Still, few are consistently capable across such a wide range of disciplines. Thank you for watching. If you like this video and want to hear more from us, please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to get notified of our new videos.